Hello there, Biakami Adesso and welcome to my review of Kingdom Hearts Union Cross. The past Wednesday, in the 30th of June, Union Cross ended its online service of the game, and I wanted to celebrate that in some way. So I will review my experience with the game. From what I understood, the game was online for 5 years or more, and they finally ended the online service, and the game will be available as a game movie so that people can get access to the lore and to the story of the game. About the game, I don't really enjoy the gameplay mechanics. The grind was pretty easy at the beginning. You had small missions, you go through the Disney worlds just like you do in the other Kingdom Hearts. You also have your own world, which is Daybreak Town, and you visit basically the worlds that you already know. So you have Beauty and the Beast, you have the Sleeping Beauty, you have Snow White, you have Hercules world, which you also have in another game mode where you can do like arena battles. You have you have Cinderella's world, and it's basically that. I think it's 6 or 7 worlds, and there's only one world that you haven't visited in other Kingdom Hearts, which is the world that appears at the end of the game at the last missions, which is Wreck-It Ralph, which was pretty interesting to see. About the gameplay, so you have your Keyblades, you gain different Keyblades as you go through the worlds, and you can upgrade them with materials that you collect as you are exploring the worlds, and you also equip them with medals. So the medals are your true strength, and at the beginning it was quite simple because you just needed to have a medal with 6 or 7 stars. I don't remember which was the limit. I think it was 6, which is the most powerful medal, and you would be done with the grind with just one attack. So you would use that medal and the grind would just be finished. Even the bosses were pretty easy. You just needed one attack with that medal and it was done. And because of that, because there was really no difficulty, you could easily do the grind and go through the cutscenes. And when you had, because at the beginning you have lots of exploring with just grind and no cutscenes, and you just lose track of your objective because you feel like you are just doing grind, and it becomes really boring. When you have access to the cutscenes, at the beginning you are still just seeing the story of the worlds, which you already know, so you aren't learning any new information. So it was, I felt like it was a really dragging experience. And this goes on for lots of missions, so I think the story mode had a total of 979 missions. I confirmed that. And I don't know if it was around the 700, 800 mission. You then have an enormous spike of difficulty. So I was just defeating with effortlessly the grind, and then suddenly I have to use more medals, which is fine because I thought I would have that need at an earlier point in the game. And then when I'm around the 900 mission, I noticed that I am not doing any damage to the bosses. I'm using my most powerful medals and I'm taking like 1 point of HP to the boss, and he has millions of life bars that I can't even count, and I just gave up at mission 965 if I'm not mistaken, but I have the screenshot. And because I couldn't do the bosses, I had to press continue, spend jewels to be able to just... I don't even know if you're able at that point to have enough HP to survive when the enemy attacks, because they take 200,000 of life points, but I didn't even care about that. I just wasn't doing any damage. I even tried to see a guide, and they were talking about getting specific medals with Kairi from Kingdom Hearts 3 or Namine or Shion. I think those were the three that they recommended, the Kingdom Hearts 3 version. And I tried to do at the shop, tried to buy those medals, but they are random, you don't always get them, and I don't know, I simply gave up because it was, I felt like there was suddenly a huge difficulty spike that it didn't feel natural, and I didn't understand the medal system enough to dedicate myself to improving. I thought I had my Keyblades pretty well done, but then you have other Keyblades that you only obtain by playing the Proud mode, which I didn't play, and it was just too much for a game that I was playing really casually, even though I wanted to see the story through to the end. About the story in itself, so just like the gameplay, the story that you have access in the beginning doesn't really teach you much. Of course, this will have spoilers because I will talk about the main things that, the main plot points that really impacted people that follow the story. One thing that I really stuck with me was the fact that Maleficent was in this game. So they give you a reason why you are visiting and seeing events of the Disney worlds that you have already seen in the Kingdom Hearts of the mainline game. So what happens is that the Keyblade builders in Daybreak Town, which are in the time of the foretellers, are actually using the Book of Prophecies as a bridge to visit worlds in the future to collect Lux, or the equivalent to light. And at the beginning, when they didn't explain that, I thought that the Disney worlds were in some kind of endless loop, but no, the Keyblade wielders are visiting these worlds and collecting Lux, but the worlds are from the future. And it seems that they don't remember anything, because when you visit them with Sora, there's no one to say anything about this. So I will leave it at that. Then you have the plot of Maleficent. So they tell you, because Maleficent is aware that she can't change her defeat. And this is something because the villains in the other worlds aren't aware of this, and she says she cannot avoid this fate. And it is explained that this Maleficent is actually the Maleficent from Kingdom Hearts 1, when Riku/Ansem opened her heart, and in that moment she was able to travel to the past. And now the darkness has told her how to go back to her time using the Ark, and basically what happens is she will not take her body, but since her heart will travel to another time, as long as someone remembers her, which we know from Kingdom Hearts 2, it will be the fairies. As long as someone remembers her, her heart can rebuild her body. So that's the reason why she's back in Kingdom Hearts 2. I don't know what else to say. I think it's really self-explanatory. I don't know, they wanted to explain that in another way. Sure, why not? And then you have access to what happens after the Keyblade War. So there was the Keyblade War. Strelitzia was killed before the Keyblade War, so she was killed by Ven, which was influenced by darkness. And from what I can gather, darkness is again inside Ven when he travels outside Daybreak Town, and he ends up 100 years later in the Keyblade graveyard where Xehanort will find him. So he traveled into the future in that catatonic state, and of course the darkness will take the form of Vanitas. The other leaders of the Union, so it was supposed to be Strelitzia, but she was killed by Ven, and then you have Brain, which gave his Keyblade to Ephemer, which we know at the end that is the master of Erika's, because you can recognize Brain's Keyblade as Erika's, and Ephemer was Erika's master from what we can see. We have Ephemer, which is the founder of Scala ad Caelum, which was the Daybreak Town rebuilt by him. So he traveled right after Daybreak Town was destroyed. You have Skuld, which we don't know what happened, but we know that Xehanort's mother is really similar to Skuld. And we have Lorium, which traveled to Snow White's world because he wakes up in a garden of flowers, and also Elrina, which is then Larxene, wakes up also in a Disney world with lightning, but you can't see what happened to them to become nobodies and then being a part of Organization 13. We also know that Lushu traveled also to a different time, and he stole, or we think that's what happened, he stole Brain's appearance, so he changed his appearance. We also don't know why. I think this game answers a lot of questions. It gives you interesting lore, it gives you interesting plot points, but it also raises lots of questions that may or may not be answered in the next Kingdom Hearts game. And of course, you also have the thing that drove lots of players ecstatic, because you discovered that the player, the character that was a nobody that you were playing, is in fact reincarnated in Xehanort. So you have been Xehanort all along, and now you have to put Zigbar's meme where it says he's half Xehanort. So the players are also Xehanort. Everyone is Xehanort, basically, in this game. And what everyone was really talking about was the plot about Shirathis. So you also discover that when Keyblade builders die, they basically have two options. Either they go to sleep, or they choose to be reincarnated. So the player chose to be reincarnated, and then if you chose to sleep, you would disappear, and Shirathi would would become a Dream Eater, so he can protect his Keyblade wielder while he's asleep. So you have this justification of what a Dream Eater is. So they were basically Shirathis. There's no explanation why there are no more Shirathis for the new Keyblade wielders, but I think that's another thing. And we don't know if the Keyblade wielders can return, if they can be awakened. I don't know how that works. but we have the plot for the Dream Eaters. I think there's lots of interesting stuff. I think there are still lots of questions because you can see Donald and Goofy visiting Daybreak Town, and you remember Donald being really confused about what are Keyblades, and he literally visited the town of Keyblade builders. So, and it also raises questions about these characters' ages and how long have they been around, and even at that point I think they mentioned Mickey's letter, so did they travel in time? I don't know, I don't get it. It is what it is. And but it was an interesting game. I think, of course, it's a mobile game, so I didn't really enjoy the mechanics. It was stupidly easy at the beginning. You could really evolve your level, get the medals, you could easily defeat the enemies, and then it just it didn't evolve naturally into a higher difficulty. It just made a huge jump that you couldn't really keep up with. So I guess I was waiting to see if they would put the game movie available already, but the app isn't working. They only have a notice saying that the app is out of service, and I think it said that the app will be back online for people that want to play Dark Road, which I will play only in September. So only at that time will I play Dark Road, see if I like the gameplay, and I will play it in the offline mode because the online mode is officially done. So tell me what you thought about these plot points, if there were other parts that you found interesting. I also want to make a little comment about the Master of Masters involvement, because sometimes when he speaks, I don't know, he doesn't seem like he's a human. Everyone is speculating about what kind of, who may he be, because sometimes people say that he may be someone really that we know really well, but I don't know at this point if he's just an entity like darkness. Maybe he's light. Some people say that's a possibility, and I think it's an interesting possibility because darkness say they are really old friends, and when they say that humans, they can't understand humans, the Master of Masters says we humans. So sometimes he does these things where seems like he's trying to say that he's not human, but maybe it's people just looking too much into it. I guess we'll have to wait to see what is Master of Masters' real identity. So tell me your theories, tell me what you think about the plot of this game, and see you next time.